Well, good afternoon to most of you, and even good morning to those on the West Coast. It's still morning out there. I'm Jim Obold, President of Servant Solutions. And so, welcome to our webinar entitled First Paycheck to Retirement, a Conversation Across Generations. So let me introduce our panel to you. First, we have Aiden Shoemaker and John Mercer. They're Anderson University interns that are with us for the summer here. And they're business majors at Anderson University. And Aiden has a mean fastball for the Anderson baseball team. And then John has a mean pitching wedge game for the golf team there at Anderson University. So welcome to those two. And then we have a familiar face, Nate Bowers, who's our financial education director, and he's in the Hall of Fame at Anderson University for soccer. And so we just had this Anderson University theme going on. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Jerry Fox, and he is a master at all those sports. I think you're just a natural athlete, aren't you, Jerry? So welcome to you four. So I just want you all to know that this is uh, we welcome questions from you, and so there's a Q&A button that should be available for you that you can ask questions throughout the webinar if something comes up, and we'll take time at the end with a familiar face again, Ellen Daniels, who's our Director of Engagement, to handle our Q&A time. So we'll jump right into it. So the first question today, as we're talking about what matters most financially in different seasons of life, is this one. What financial advice would you give your younger self? And so, Aiden, I'll let you go ahead and start off.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. To start off, I'd say advice to my younger self, it would be to build margin before I think I need it. It's easy to feel pressure to upgrade everything. Everybody today wants a newer car, a bigger house, a new phone, new jewelry. But it's important to consider that debt limits your options and creates stress for later. One habit I'm working on myself is building a spreadsheet and knowing where my money is going.
Mhm.
It's just a simple plan that helps me limit my wants and prioritize my needs. And especially in ministry with the people we work with, there's always going to be opportunities to spend more. But the goal isn't to look flashy and to be success or to look successful. It's to create enough margin to handle your opportunities and challenges without financial stress, making yourself successful.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. Got to know where that money's going. What about you, John?
Yeah, to kind of build off of what Aiden said, I think when you build that spreadsheet, now you're going to know kind of the proportions of where the income you're bringing in and kind of where your expenses are. And so one of the things that I'm doing right now with my spreadsheet and kind of allocating my funds is allocating actually a portion to investing and to my retirement. And it does kind of seem like a long way off right now, but certainly something that I'm going to be happy I did here in the future. Because even if it's a small portion right now, building that habit is something that I think is so important. And then as that habit builds, you can build on top of that and grow it as you continue.
Yeah, excellent. And Nate, I know you're a little bit further down the road. So, what do you wish you would have done earlier in life?
Well, Jim, I wish I had stretched more personally. We're all feeling it these
Yeah.
days. But, honestly, it's great hearing from these two young folks because I wish I was as wise as them at this point in time. If I could go back and talk to my younger self after receiving that first paycheck in my professional job, first thing I'd say to him is start saving immediately, even if it's only a small amount. I'll expand a little bit more on what John says, but looking back, I actually waited 2 years after I began working to begin contributing to my retirement. And here's the thing, guys, even if I had only planned to save, let's just say a small amount, $100 a month, that's only $1,200 a year. Missing out on those 2 years due to the magic of compounding interest is probably going to end up costing me about $150,000 in missed retirement earnings. So I really wish I could go back and change that. But the other thing in that is I wish I had increased my retirement contribution every time I got a raise. Let's say you get a 3% raise, but if you increase your contribution to your retirement by 1%, you're going to improve your future without really changing your lifestyle. The other thing that I've learned over time is that financial success is not about one brilliant decision. It's actually, as John just talked about, it's developing habits. So automate your tithing to your church, automate your savings, automate your retirement contributions, and then increase those contributions regularly. Live below your means. Now, these simple disciplines may not seem exciting, but they can completely change your financial future. And finally, I tell my younger self, don't be intimidated by investing. You don't have to find the perfect investment or even predict the market. In fact, some of the most successful investors that I know simply contributed consistently to diversified investments, similar to our life funds here at Servant Solutions, and then left them alone to grow. So start early, stay consistent, and trust the process. Now, if you're an NBA basketball fan, I apologize for referring to the 76ers failed slogan, but here's what I'll tell you to wrap up. I've never once ran into someone later on in life who says that they wish they started later and saved less. But we run into people all the time who say the inverse.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I love the fact that like let's don't do anything flashy. Boring is good, and it prevents a lot of drama in the future, doesn't it? All right. Well, Jerry, you're a little bit even further down the road. So, but what have you learned that's made the biggest difference over time?
Yeah, it thanks for reminding me that I'm much further down the road than these guys, but
I
it's
said
such
a little bit. Yeah.
such a joy to work with these younger folks. And I got to tell you, I feel honored. They pour into my life, but they often ask me questions about, hey, at this stage, what do you wish you'd done earlier? I asked that question of a lot of our members, people who have their accounts with us that are at my stage of life, and said, hey, we're getting ready for this webinar. I've got a couple ideas. What do you think? You know, the consistent messages that came from a lot of our members were these: first, honor the Lord with the first fruits of everything he blesses you with. Start there. Believe me, you will live better on 90% than you do 100% if you honor God first.
Yeah.
But coupled with that, they immediately said, hey, I've been married now for 40 plus years. The best thing I did was find somebody that shared that perspective,
Hmm.
someone for whom the Lord was first. And then let's clarify godly priorities and goals within our home and our family. Most of your spending is going to be for your home and your family. And there are lots of things you can spend it on. Are you pulling in the same direction? The Apostle Paul to the church at Corinth said, hey, don't be unequally yoked,
Hmm.
especially with unbelievers, people who don't share the same priorities and perspectives that you do spiritually, but also how your family works and the finances that support that family. Make sure you're pulling in the same direction. Money will either be a common bond that you share as a tool to build the home and the life you want, or it can be a wedge and a club, even that families use to beat each other up if you're not honoring the Lord first and then pulling in the same direction. But it makes all these other things that you've heard these guys share possible right from those first paychecks.
Yeah, so wise. Thank you, Jerry. So let's dig in a little bit more into these concepts. When we think about saving early and lifestyle choices, debt management, retirement contributions, and even compound growth, what financial decisions have made the greatest long-term impact in those categories? And we'll start with saving early. John, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, so many important factors into it, but early and almost more importantly, consistent investing is just so vital because there's a couple things that we can guarantee, and one of those is not the market, right? It's unpredictable at the end of the day. No one knows if it's going to go up today or down today, but what we do know is that in the long run, it is going to go up, and so time in the market is going to be timing the market right,
Right.
right? And so I compiled a little bit of data. If we take a very conservative annual compounding average of 9 to 10%, starting investing at 25 years old, your $1 is going to multiply 45 times by the time you're 65. I just think that's incredible. It just shows the trade-off between buying something now and what it could be in the future, which I think Aiden's going to touch on later on. But yeah, I think that's definitely a super important part.
Yeah, and it's a good segue to Aiden. Aiden, what about lifestyle choices?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, the biggest financial decisions are often the small decisions that we repeat over decades. What John just touched on was the wealth multiplier concept, which we talk about a lot here, which is essentially just what the money we spend today would be worth if we let that sit in an IRA and compound until we retire. A great example of this would be, the daily cup of coffee that everybody likes to start their morning off with. That's about $4 on average. But from my age, if that were to save, you know, 88 compounds in an IRA, that would be about $500 in retirement, which makes that $4 for the cup of coffee sound way more expensive than just what it is now. It's the same deal for something like a Netflix subscription. $13 is thousands of dollars monthly. And the point of that isn't to eliminate all the things that are fun and every expense. It's just you want to enjoy life and enjoy the things you value, but you have to understand the trade-off between spending now and building wealth later. Find the things that you value and invest in them, but keep in mind that time is the most powerful tool in investing. And starting early and cutting down on wants to invest what you can matters more than trying to invest huge amounts later on.
Yeah, and it's almost a necessity, isn't it, that you have to save because we talk about compounding, but inflation compounds as well. And so that means that, yeah, my money will double over several decades, but also your cost will double as well. And a lot of folks forget about inflation and then how things are going to be more expensive in the future as well. So $1 million today won't mean $1 million in 30, 40 years, let's say. So it's important to still stay in the game when it says stay in the market. So great stuff. Jerry, what about debt management?
Yeah, both these guys, all of us really have been talking about the magic of compounding. Our old professor, Glenn Falls, used to say that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and that's why if I get started early, it works in my favor. Debt is when that same compounding works against you, and it's going to multiply the dollars from your current earnings that have to go to service debt can't be used for anything else, certainly not saving for a more secure future. And so getting yourself out of debt, and especially high interest debt, as soon as possible is the best way to get yourself at stable ground and then build up from there. Otherwise, I'm just digging a deeper hole. A question I often get is, well, when does debt ever make sense? I think there are really only about three things where it does. One is if I'm buying an appreciating asset, such as a home, and while I'm paying down the debt and the mortgage on that, hopefully the value of the home is growing so that I'm creating a more valuable asset. The second one is an educated me. If the only way I can get the education and training I need to use the gifts God's put in me in the most productive way is to do it with some education debt, that makes sense if the long-term growth of what I'll be able to earn can more than service that debt and make for a much better future for the long term. The third one that we can't often avoid is sometimes medical debt. If I've got a need for myself or my family that I just don't have all the resources for, and my insurance isn't covering it all, obviously I've got to do what's necessary for that. But beyond those three, very few things are going to be make my life better by using debt to do it, especially credit card debt, which is anywhere from 15 to 30%. When I put something on a card and don't pay the balance in full at the end of the month, I am making somebody else richer. They're the ones that saved the money and loaned it to me so that I could have something I couldn't afford right now, and I'm making their life better. But I'm actually reducing my total purchasing power by using credit anytime I do that. So we counsel people all the time. Get out of debt, then take what you were using to pay the debt off and add that to your savings, your retirement savings here. Get the tax break up front, but then watch that grow. That's what we try and help people think about all the time.
Yeah, yeah, we can definitely get in that trap of being slaves to debt, can't we? So, Nate, what about just focusing on retirement contributions? We talked a lot about compound growth, but what about specifically why is saving for retirement so important right now?
Sure, Jim. And let me just piggyback on Jerry because saving for retirement is so important. but I've seen people earn excellent returns on their retirement. The market's been really good to us the past couple of years. But if they're earning great returns on their retirement while simultaneously, paying 20+% interest on credit card balances or 10 to 15% on auto loans, that's a difficult math problem, to overcome. So eliminating that high interest debt is often one of the best investments available. But then secondly, before I get to retirement, we're going to get there, I'd establish an emergency fund. It's really, really important that you have some liquid assets or some cash on hand. 3 to 6 months of expenses is what we recommend. Because we all know, guys, right? The washing machine doesn't break down at the opportune time, or an unexpected medical expense, or maybe you're in between jobs for a few months. And it never occurs when we happen to be sitting on that pile of cash. But if you have an emergency fund, then you're not forced to go back into the high interest rate debt that you just worked so hard to pay off. And then we want to invest for retirement. And here's the deal. John touched on this a little bit. It's about time in the market, not timing the market. I've lived through in my life the dot-com crash, the financial crisis, the housing crisis, COVID, numerous market corrections, right? And every one of those periods, they felt uncertain at the time, yet investors who stayed disciplined continued contributing because we get bargains at that. It's called dollar cost averaging. Those individuals actually come out ahead of the folks who tried to time the market. So if I had to summarize it up, I'd say this: your financial future is going to be more shaped by your behavior than by your investments. So manage debt wisely, establish an emergency fund, save and stay focused on long-term goals rather than short-term headlines or anything like that that you might read. I tell my kids all this all the time. Delayed gratification is easy to say, but it takes a disciplined approach to put into practice.
Yeah, and you bring up a great concept that you don't have to be an investment expert to earn good money in the market. That has been done a lot by Servant Solutions for you based on your time, your birth date, and your timing of your retirement. And so we have model portfolios called life funds that can really help you kind of a do-it-for-me approach that are less fees but have great returns, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, well, let's move on to many of the folks that are on here are ministry folks and ministry leaders and there's some unique financial challenges to being a ministry leader. So one of those is modest salaries. Jerry, can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, I lived that. I grew up in a pastor's home, and my parents pastored small to medium-sized churches. We never had an abundance of salary. On top of that, though, we moved several times. My dad was a youth pastor, and then an associate pastor, and then lead pastor. But every time we moved, we would go to a new state. There were transition costs that were a part of making the move. My mother oftentimes was employed as well, and so finding a new job wasn't immediate. Often, finding what was best in that new environment. And so our family finances, the inflows of cash and some of the expenses were up and down. That is hard to plan for, and it does make this more difficult. And that's why having a plan like Servant Solutions that gets what ministry life is like, it can help both you and your church leadership understand there are ways to structure a pastor's compensation in a way that makes your church more stable, makes your pastor more stable and secure, so that they can really focus on the ministry before them. That's what we're here to help people do. We've got lots of resources and experience that we can share with that. But it's some of those transitional things. Another thing that we run into a lot, people who have a plan with us in the church that they are at or the ministry where they're serving is enrolled with Servant Solutions, and they move to a new place that may not already be established with Servant Solutions, but maybe we can serve them there. That's where it's important for you to reach out and say, hey, this church that I'm at right now doesn't currently have a retirement plan, or they haven't been actively contributing. Can you help me with that? And Ellen Daniels, who's on here, will wave and say yes. She is our primary point person to help churches get enrolled, help new pastors that are a part of a ministry get enrolled. Don't let there be a 6 month gap with no contributions into your retirement fund. We can help with that. So it's some of those transitional things that are a part of being in ministry that we're probably better positioned to help with than any other retirement plan I know.
Yeah, fantastic. And Nate, I know there's other challenges. What would you say they are?
Yeah, so Jim, the first half of my career I spent in corporate finance until God kind of threw a curveball into the mix and called me into ministry as an executive pastor at a local church and now here at Servant Solutions. And one of the things I've learned is that ministry compensation is very unique and often requires intentional planning. Jerry talked about it a little bit. But there are unique items that you need to be educated on, aware of, and even advocate for yourself. Items like direct retirement contributions to your Servant Solutions account from your church that doesn't bump up against some of the individual IRS limitations, or perhaps matching contributions that your church might make, health plans, insurance. An accountable reimbursement plan, secret tax offsets, or fringe benefits. Those are just naming a few of the many. And I would honestly, I'd be remiss not to mention the minister's housing allowance, which is really one of the most valuable tax benefits available to credentialed ministers, both during and before retirement. However, here's the thing, folks, maximizing its benefits along with other ministry compensation requires careful planning and an understanding of all the applicable rules. And that's what we're here for. Servant Solutions and our team, we can help you incorporate these into your retirement strategy, or we'll even work with you and your church so that you and your church can steward your compensation wisely. Now, another challenge I've seen all the time is balancing generosity with stewardship. Ministry leaders are often among the most generous people that I've ever met. And that I know, and they care deeply about helping others and advancing the kingdom. But stewardship also includes saving and preparing for your own future. Saving for retirement, guys, it isn't selfish. It helps ensure that you can continue serving and giving and supporting your family with financial freedom rather than stress and financial limitations later on in life, so that you can continue to follow the calling that God has placed on your life. And the good news is ministry leaders don't need extraordinary income to make meaningful progress towards their goals. Consistent saving, thoughtful planning, sound guidance can go a long way towards building financial confidence and long-term security. And again, that's where we here at Servant Solutions can help you. We understand the unique financial opportunities and challenges that come with ministry, and we are committed to helping you make informed decisions every step of the way. So we encourage you to connect with one of our financial wellness professionals who can walk alongside you as you clarify your goals, evaluate your options, and will help you to develop a plan for the future. And I know hopefully we'll have maybe an opportunity, but our roadmap process, our financial roadmap process, it's a planned process that is designed to help you take next steps with confidence by providing personalized guidance and actionable recommendations that are tailored to your unique situation, because no two of you are alike. But here's the thing, no matter where you are in your financial journey, we are here to help you move forward with purpose, but also to provide peace of mind.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I quickly,
Sure.
Nate, let me ask you, we hear every now and then someone that says, I knew you guys did some of that financial planning and the roadmap thing, but my finances are such a mess. I was just embarrassed and ashamed to contact you. How do you respond?
Jerry, we say all the time, this is a no shame zone. We can't go back as much as we would like. I'd like to go back and talk to my younger self and get him to make some changes, but that literally is in the past. But now what we can do is we can take a look at your situation and we can make some unique recommendations, because it doesn't matter. It is not too late. There are still opportunities even later on in life to structure your compensation, your savings, and to set you up as best we can for your next step and where God is calling you.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate what you said, that our members are not alone, especially when it comes to advocating for themselves when they work for a nonprofit ministry. When some employers, if they just knew that sometimes they don't know what they don't know, and we can come in and talk with them and say, hey, if you knew the impact of what the employer could do on your behalf,
Yes.
they would make those changes. And just know that we can help you with those discussions. and be a huge advocate for you and do it in a way that's empowering and helpful. So let's end with this question, everyone. Uh, there's lots of things you can do now or in the future, but if you had to do something in the next 30 days, what one action item would you do? John, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would really urge you guys to go do is take a look at the financial calculators on the Servant Solutions website. Really, truly, there's a calculator for whatever season of life you're going through right now. There's calculators that are going to help you create a strategy to maybe manage your debt. There's calculators that are retirement planning. There are calculators that are going to show mortgage loans. And really, it's just a great way to see a picture of what if I contribute this? What if I contribute this? What is that going to look like in the future? And it really simplifies the process and shows what it's going to look like if you do make that change.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And how about you, Aiden?
Yeah, for me, it kind of touches up on what Nate was just talking about, and it's just that you don't need to do this alone. My advice would be within the next 30 days to reach out and get advice from a professional. Use the resources available to you, whether it's retirement planning, investment guidance, or one of the tools that we offer. You don't feel like you have to figure it out all on your own.
Mhm.
Financial stewardship is a journey, and we're here to help you every step of the way, if it's us or whether it's any professional. Um, our our advisors like Jerry and Nate always have great advice, whether you're trying to make major financial decisions, change your investment mix, or anything along the sort. So that's just my advice to you would be reach out and get help while you can.
Great, great advice. How about Nate?
Yeah, real simple, Jim. If there's one thing I'd encourage you all to do in the next 30 days is just take a look at your retirement savings. Log on to your account, review your contribution rate, and see if you can increase it, even if by 1% or even if it's just $10. You don't have to overhaul your entire financial plan this month. Just take that one intentional step forward. And I want to remind everyone, again, you don't have to do it alone, and it's never too late to make progress on this. Because again, here at Servant Solutions, our goal is to walk alongside you, help you develop a plan that aligns with your goals, your values, and your calling. Because it's our mission to help provide financial security and really ultimately financial freedom to the servants of the church so that you can continue focusing on the ministry God has entrusted to you.
All right, thank you, Nate. And Jerry.
Hey, Jim, I just saw you do something I need to do.
Yeah, get
We
the
are
light on.
we conserve energy here at Servant Solutions to save money, and if we don't move, our lights turn out. So I saw you do that. I need to get mine on. Hey, in the next 30 days, we are in vacation season. It is time that we want to have fun with our families. We want to do some things, make some good memories. And I love that Aiden earlier said, hey, being financially responsible doesn't mean you never have any fun, but plan your fun. Decide ahead of time, here's what we want to do and how much we're willing to spend on that. It's real easy in the midst of a vacation when something we hadn't thought about comes up. We go, oh, yeah, let's all do that. And now $300 later, yeah, we had a great time, but it may have made the next couple months a little tougher because we spent more than we really planned for. So, planned spending, using a budget, looking ahead at what the priorities are, and then staying within that can really be a big help. It does leave more money for the things I value most. One of the things we always say, you can't do everything, but you can do what you value most if you decide what it is and plan for it. And that's what we're here to help you do.
Yeah, thank you guys. Well, it's time for our Q&A, and I'm going to turn it over to Ellen before we ask Aiden to close us up in prayer. So, Ellen, what do you have for us?
Yeah, definitely. First off, thanks, y'all. What a great conversation. It's so good to hear from different generations, but all of you had good, solid information to share. Not that I was judging you at all. Um, hey, we had some really good questions come in. I'm going to start with one. I work with a company that matches up to 6%. First, kudos to that company. Secondly, should I add more to that? I am also contributing into Servant Solutions from my church salary. Should I put any overages in Servant Solutions? Great questions there. So he's getting a 6% match. What advice would you give him? Should he include more and add to that?
Jerry, why don't you take that one?
Sure. Uh, I agree with you. Kudos to a church that values their ministry leaders to say, we want to help contribute. Most of us get that if we don't work in ministry from our employers. They're going to provide something for our retirement plan, and that's great. So the first thing is yes, at least put in 6%. If the church is going to match that 6%, that's a 100% doubling of your money right off the bat, and then both pieces grow over time. As a rule of thumb, which is always dangerous because all of us have different sized thumbs in different family situations, putting between 10 and 15% of your gross pay in over your working years toward retirement ensures a very stable retirement. And so, in between what the church puts in and what you put in, if you can get as soon as possible toward that 15%, it's just going to make life so much easier. Nate mentioned a trick to doing that. Every time I get a raise, I'm going to increase my giving toward my contributions toward my retirement account. I get a 3% raise, I'm going to put a third of that in. I still got a raise, I still have more in my regular paycheck, but I see things growing quickly.
Yeah, and I would just
Yeah.
add to that that if you are married, that make sure that the whole family income that those percentages are applying to. Some spouses work part-time or full-time and they don't have an employer plan. So it's
Right.
important that if they don't, that they're either saving in a separate IRA or you are saving double in yours to cover the full family income, that 10 to 15%. And it matters whether you're starting younger. If you're younger, you can go on the lower end of that spectrum. If you're starting later, you may have to even go higher. And if
Yeah.
you've opted out of Social Security, even higher. So,
Great. Good information, guys. I just want to make sure as well, the question asked, he's actually working at another company and at a church. I want you to know at Servant Solutions, we want you to take advantage of those employer matches, whether it's through your church and you're putting it into Servant Solutions, or whether it's with another company, a non-ministry company that you cannot contribute to Servant Solutions. That's one thing I love about our retirement plan. We're going to share information for you that's best for you. And if your employer is putting free money on the table, yes, take advantage of it all the way up to that 6%. Next question. I'm 55 years old. Is it too late for me to make any difference from my retirement planning? I love this kind of question. We get it often, but Nate, will you speak to that?
Sure, Ellen. Absolutely not. Obviously, we've talked about while starting earlier is always beneficial, 55 still gives you time to make meaningful progress. In fact, many people in that age group are in their peak earning years at that stage of life, which can create additional opportunities to increase retirement contributions and or reduce debt and refine your strategy. Also, if you're 50 and older, the IRS is also allows you to be eligible for catch-up contributions, allowing you to save even more in your retirement account. The key here is to focus on the factors you can control today, rather than dwelling on again what may or may not have happened in the past. At Servant Solutions, we've worked with many ministry leaders who feel or felt that they were behind, only to discover that a few little tweaks, a few strategic adjustments can make a specific and significant difference in their retirement outlook. Obviously, the best time to start planning was years ago, but the second best time is today.
Right.
Good answer. Good answer.
all right, Ellen, we got time for one more question.
Okay, excellent. As newlyweds, we're eager to buy our first home, but current interest rates make us hesitant. Is it better to keep renting and just wait for those rates to come down, or should we focus on buying when we're financially ready, regardless of where the rates are? Jerry?
Uh, Again, there's no one answer that would fit all scenarios, but the general view of that is the sooner I can begin building my own equity, buying a house, buying it well, and then seeing that grow up as I pay down the mortgage is good. But it is tough to get both the down payment to make yourself qualify, and to have steady employment income to qualify for a good mortgage at lower rates. and the fact that rates are kind of up and down. I would always say until rates get down to where you know that if I apply, I can be approved, and it's better to get pre-approved before I even start looking for homes. Otherwise, I'll get my heart set on something and not make it come through. But get pre-approved, and you can do that with your local banker. Say, we're approaching this. How much do we need to have to make sure that we get pre-approved? What could we qualify for? And then within what price range should we start even looking? So I would do that before I get started. The banker can help you decide this is the best time or not.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah, and I would add
Great.
that it's not just a financial decision. We know that there's lifestyle decisions that have to happen with this, and I think
Sure.
your goals and how long you're going to be at a certain location geographically, all those come into play, and I think that's why our roadmap process is so great. Is that it's not just financial numbers. Anyone can do that. I think where our specialty is we consider your goals and your objectives along with what the Lord is working with in your life and what He's directing you,
Mhm.
and combine all that along with the financial information to make a wise decision. And so there's 2,000 verses in the Word about finances, but it all has to do with it, not just finances. It's about what the Lord is working in your life to do.
Great. Excellent. Thanks so much, Jim. We have not had many more questions come in, which tells me you guys did a tremendous job. So thank you so much. Also, this conversation was a conversation across generations. I think you can all see how wise our young friends are that are on the call. And because of that, I would love to ask Aiden, if you don't mind, could you close us out in prayer? We always like to pray for those that we serve, and this would be a great way to end our call today.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together today. Thank you for the community you've given us and for each person who's taken the time to join the conversation. We're grateful for the opportunity to learn from one another and to grow as faithful stewards of the resources you've entrusted to us. Lord, thank you for the wisdom, experience, and insight that you've provided Jerry, Nate, and John. Thank you for the wealth of knowledge they've shared and the ways that they help guide others towards financial decisions. We pray that what we discussed today wouldn't remain information, but become action. Give us wisdom in our planning and choices, and contentment in all circumstances. We also pray for the pastors, ministry leaders, and families represented here today. Encourage them in their calling, provide for their needs, and give them peace in their planning. Thank you for the for the faithfulness and provision. We trust you with our futures and ask that everything we do bring honor and glory to you. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aiden. Thanks for joining us again. And remember, we do host a webinar on a quarterly basis, so hopefully we will see you in the fall. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.